What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. It's Green Tea Sister. If you've been here before, then welcome back. If you're new to my channel, then join the party. I created this channel for women and men who didn't have strong mentors in their lives throughout their teens or 20s, so consider me your older sister online. And without further ado, we're gonna go straight into today's topic. Today, I'm gonna be talking about 5 red flags that you should never ignore in a man or a woman or any potential relationship for that matter. Number 1, he is stingy. Specifically, I'm talking about a man who is stingy with his money. And the reason why this is a red flag is most of the times if they're stingy with their money, they're gonna be stingy with other things. A guy who truly appreciates you and wants to pursue you and wants to have a relationship with you will not withhold material resources from you. I'm not even talking about extreme cases where he's squandering his wealth and spending it all on you, but rather I'm talking about generosity in terms of what he can handle. So for example, obviously if a guy is still in college or he's, working toward his master's degree, he might not be able to spend a lot of money on you, but it's more about where his heart is. A guy who's serious about you and wants to pursue a committed relationship with you will show that, and that will be reflected through the way he spends his resources on you and the way he spends his time on you and the way he exerts his energy on pursuing the relationship with you. When a guy is stingy, it's a reflection of the size of his plate. Everyone has sort of like a different capacity of how generous they are and how much they can give. And of course, generosity is a muscle that can be developed over time by practicing it. But I do think naturally some people are born to be givers and some people are born to be more of a taker. If a guy, for example, like he asked you out on a first date, even though he's the one who asked you out, he's unwilling to pay for the date. He says, oh, let's go 50-50. Unless there's a very specific reason why he cannot pay for that meal, that's an indication that he's someone who is not very generous. Please don't take it out of context and say, oh, like we live in 21st century. Of course, guys and girls can both pay for the meals. That's not even what I'm saying. Of course, as women, we can pay for the meal. Of course, as men, you can pay for the meal. It's not about the gender issue. It's more about your motivation and your heart issue. So if a guy is the one who asked you on a first date and it is clear he wants to pursue you, it is clear that he wants to get to know you, but he's still adamant about splitting everything down to the T, I think that's a greater indication of how he's not only just going to be stingy with his money, he's going to be 50-50 man. He's going to want to split resources with you. It's a reflection that he's by nature not someone who's a giver, but more of a taker or someone who wants everything to be equal. If you're a woman who wants to date a man like that, by all means go ahead and do it. I'm just telling you, this is definitely a red flag that you should be mindful of, especially if these are more apparent in the early stage of the relationship. Then I would take these signs with caution. On the contrary, a generous guy, a guy, even if it's like going to McDonald's, or hopefully he doesn't take it to McDonald's on the first date, but even if it's going to Chipotle or going to more local restaurants, like if he's generous, if he's willing to pay for things, I do find that simply so attractive. Again, as I said, it's not about how expensive the meal is. It's not about how much he can spend on you, because your value, girl, it's not based on how much money a guy can spend on you. That doesn't determine your value as a woman or man. When a guy is generous with you, ladies, please don't take advantage of it, but take it as a major green flag. Next point, number 2, he wants to rush into the relationship with you. First of all, ladies, if a guy wants to rush into a relationship with you, while this may be flattering, this is certainly a red flag in so many ways, and here are the reasons why. First, guy who is serious and intentional, even if he does like you, he has the level of self-control and intentionality to contain his emotion. He will first take the time to himself to make sure that he is sure of the feeling that he has for you. A guy who is unable to do that, it indicates lack of self-control. Oftentimes it's being driven by passion, and more often than not, it's really not even about you. A lot of times in this kind of cases, it's about his ego. It's about fulfilling his own desires of wanting you. While this may be flattering in the beginning of the relationship, ladies, dating a man who prioritizes his desires above everything else will eventually hurt you in the relationship down the road. Another reason why this can be dangerous is because he may be hiding something. Anybody who wants to rush into something, whether that be romantic relationship or even friendship, if a friend is, coming too forward too soon, a lot of times they may have different intentions of why they want to rush into forming an intimate connection with you. He may have something he's hiding. Maybe he has some kind of deep shame and he doesn't really want to let you take the time to really get to know him because he's afraid if you really get to know him, then you might not want to be with him. Another term for rushing intimacy, it's called love bombing. This is a psychological tactic to win you over and rush the process of forming intimate relationship. And just like a swindler, anyone who tries to rush forming a close connection, more often than not, they do not have your best interests in heart. Over time, you realize they rush the relationship not because they love you so much, but because they really just want something from you, or they want to form this intimate relationship so that you don't find out about even bigger red flags that they may be hiding from you. I would say 90% of the time, if a guy tries to rush a relationship with you, it's a major red flag. Number 3, he dismisses your feelings. Let's say you just started seeing someone. One day you guys are hanging out and he asks you about how your day was, and you start sharing about the difficulties you're having at work. Let's just say you're talking about how your boss is micromanaging, you've been having really challenging situations at work, and yada yada. He listens, he responds with, "Hey, at least you have a job," or "Oh, come on, like that's not a big deal, let's just go have fun." While this kind of dismissive attitude might not seem like a big deal at the moment, this is an indication of a bigger underlying issue, a sign of lack of empathy, emotional immaturity, and his overall lack of emotional intelligence. I can guarantee you a man who minimizes or dismisses your pain, no matter how small they are, is a man who will do the same when you face greater struggle. If a guy shows this kind of dismissive attitude a lot when you're sharing about your difficulties, he most likely in the future won't treat you with the love and the respect and the care that you need as a woman, but rather he would expect you to handle these difficulties on your own. And when you do share vulnerably about your struggles, he won't give you the emotional support or the care that you need. On the contrary, a man who has good emotional intelligence knows how to respond with kindness and gentleness in this kind of situation. Even a man who may be of a few words and very reserved, he may gently nod to validate your struggles, and he will listen very carefully as you're sharing about them. He won't be quick to judge, or he won't be quick to make conclusions about how you should feel in your own emotion. So whenever a guy dismisses your feelings or minimizes whatever you're going through, don't brush this off thinking that this is not a big deal. But rather, I would tread very carefully if I saw this sign early in the relationship. Number 4, a man who cannot take accountability or responsibility. If a man is not able to take responsibility, whether that be for his words, whether that be for his actions, even as small things as owning up to his mistakes and being able to apologize, if a man either deflects his responsibilities or puts it back on you, which is actually a sign of manipulation, I would be very careful because this is a big, huge, major red flag. If you're dating someone and this guy is not able to take responsibilities very well, I would be very careful because this is a sign that he is not a fully grown man. He may be 25, he may be 27, he may be physically fully grown, but mentally and emotionally, if a guy cannot take responsibility, he is still mentally stuck in the boyhood. He is not fully grown man. He is a man-child, a guy who has a really hard time accepting responsibility, admitting his faults. It shows a lack of character, really, and it's a reflection of his emotional immaturity. Any man who is mature and any man who has really taken the time to reflect and work on himself would be able to take accountability when you do call him out on certain things. Anyone who deflects it, they're not there yet. They're mentally still have a lot of work to do. And ladies, let me tell you something. It is not your responsibility to raise a man-child. When you become a mother, you can raise sons, you can raise daughters, but it is not your responsibility to try to raise someone, to try to fix someone, and it is not your job to try to change someone. People don't change. They only change internally when they want to go through the change, but you cannot be the catalyst to make that man change. So if you are holding on to that hope, that is not your responsibility, that is not your job. I would just say, lay it unto God, let God do the work in that person. If you really like this guy, go ahead and continue dating, but all I can tell you is that it's gonna feel like you're raising this person rather than being in a partnership, being in an equal partnership. So anytime a guy cannot take accountability or be responsible for his words and actions, it's an indication that he hasn't matured yet. And of course, everybody's human, we all make mistakes, and nobody's perfect. Any Office fans out there. But if a guy has a hard time taking accountability, and it's not just once, it's not just twice, it's more like a pattern, that is a red flag. Number 5, last but not least, man who lies about small things. This kind of goes back to number 4, not being able to take accountability. When people cannot take responsibility, they would oftentimes try to cover it up with a lie. Sis, if a guy lies about small things, he will definitely lie about bigger things. If a guy lies about small things, it's an indication that he has a porous conscience. He has holes in his conscience. He's someone who doesn't mind. He doesn't take it very seriously. If he tells a lot of small lies, it doesn't bother him that much. And again, it doesn't mean he's like a completely bad person. It just means he has a different standard of what integrity means to him, right? So if you're a woman and you want to find a man who has a high level of integrity, who can tell the truth, who you can trust, as ladies, I think it is also our responsibility to choose a man who is trustworthy. Don't just base your decisions on feelings. Don't just base it off on how attractive he looks, how good he makes you feel. Those are feelings, and feelings are fleeting. But a man of true character is a man that you can trust, is a man that you can rely on when you're going through hard times. So if a man is someone who's okay with telling small lies, who's okay with making small compromises like that, he's also a man who's okay with making bigger compromises, making bigger lies. And when he does make a bigger lie, he's not going to try to own up to it. He's going to try to cover it up. If a guy has a tendency to lie about small things, it kind of falls into 2 categories. Either he's really fearful, so he's afraid of taking accountability. He's afraid of telling the truth about small things because of his fear. Or another alternative is that he's just an evil guy. He's like, just doesn't have a good heart. And both of the cases are equally bad. There's no justification for someone who constantly tells lies, right? No matter what the motivation is. They're both selfish motivation. Even if those lies at the time seem seemingly small and innocuous, I would just be very careful, because a lot of times if a guy can compromise in telling small lies, it is a sign that he's also willing to compromise when it comes to telling bigger lies. So those are the 5 red flags that you should never ignore in a man if you are considering entering into a dating relationship with someone. And again, as a reminder, there's probably a lot more red flags. These are the red flags that I think are really important to watch out for in order to protect yourself. When you're in the early stage of the relationship, it's very easy to get swept over your feet and to just like follow your feelings, follow your heart, follow your emotions. But at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to protect ourselves. It is our job to choose whoever you end up dating, whoever you end up marrying very wisely. And I want to share these experiences with you so that you can make the best optimal decisions for you, because who you end up dating and who you end up marrying can really change the course of your life. It is, if anything, one of the most important decisions that you will make in your life. So do not take it lightly. If there's any other red flags that you have encountered before or that you would like to share, please leave it down in the comments. And I'm going to be making more videos of this similar kind of topics. If there's any other topics related to dating, relationship, or just life in general that you like to see, then also please leave it down in the comments. Feel free to like this video and subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye!